Hello everyone and welcome to a video game tutorial. Today I'll be starting all the way back and talking to you guys about video games. Now you may be thinking, why video games? Well, for one, video games have always been a good pastime for me. And second, especially during these times, it has created many fan bases and communities where players and other fans talk about their favorite games. During the early days of the pandemic, players would use video games to socialize, and according to Newsweek and Insider, players have used a game called Animal Crossing New Horizons to host birthday parties, dates, and even weddings. And ever since I got into coding, I've always wanted to make something, and now I could do it with video games. So, to show my love for video game development to you guys, I'll be teaching you how to make the first ever video game, Pong.
Behold the tools of creation!
So for this tutorial, I will be using a game maker engine called Unity. Now many of you probably never heard of it, but you've probably heard of the games that were made with it, like Overcooked, Mobile Legends Bang Bang, Pokemon Go, Super Hot, Crossy Road, Temple Run, one of my favorite games, Hearthstone, and the now very popular game on the media, Among Us. So now you know what Unity is, we can go ahead and download Unity and open a new 2D file from the Unity Hub. And don't worry, the best part about Unity is that it comes at a price of $3.99. According to an article about Unity, it is good for beginners, it's fast and agile, makes portability easier, they have a large and varied asset store, and they allow you to build your own tools. So once we get the window to pop up, we can start the coding. Many people use Visual Studios because of its helpful tips for errors you make, but I'll be using Notepad++ because it's free. You can change the settings here to use your preferred notepad for coding. First, we will go here to Project, right-click and select New C# file. Name it Player Movement, and then open it by double-clicking on it. Once open, some default code should be found. We can remove this start method since we'll be working with the fixed update method only. So in this method, we will add the controls for the player. But first, we will add a boolean, which is a binary variable that can be either true or false, which will tell us if the player using this code is player 1 or player 2, and we will name it isPlayer1. Next, we'll add the controls for the player by first doing the code for moving player 1's panel up if player 1 presses W. We can do this by using this translate method, which moves the object in the X, Y, and Z axis. And since we want it to move up, we will have the method say go 0.1 units up the Y axis. Then we'll add an if statement that would detect if player 1 presses W and if the panel is under the upper boundary, since we don't want the panel flying off the screen. Now we will repeat this for if player 1 presses S, their panel goes down. If player 2 presses the up arrow, their panel goes up. And if player 2 presses the down arrow, their panel goes down. And that is it for the controls of the two panels. Now back to Unity, we will add another C# file and we will name it ball movement. For this code, we want the ball always moving after the spacebar is pressed. So first, we will add a boolean called GameStarted. We will use this to move the ball at the start. Next, in the fixed update method, we'll add another if statement saying if GameStarted is false and spacebar is pressed, then do this. The code inside would set GameStarted to true. Next, we'll add another if statement that would check if the game started, and inside we'll add two if-else statements that does if this is true, then do this, but if false, do that. However, before we get to those, we will first have to add two more booleans named is going right and is going up, and we will set these to true. Back to the if-else statements where we will add a boolean for each statement. Inside, we'll add the respective translate methods that will move the ball to the right, left, up, and down. Next, we'll add another if statement that would act as the game manager and would detect when a player scores. This if statement means if the ball goes past the 10 unit mark or the negative 10 unit mark, then change the game started to false and place the ball back at the center. This would reset the game. Lastly, we'll add the code that would make the ball bounce by switching direction. For this, we'll be using the onTriggerEnter2D method. This method would trigger if another trigger or collider touches this object. This is good since the ball will switch direction if it touches the panel or the top or bottom boundaries. And in this method, we'll add two if statements that will detect if the ball hit an object with the tag panel and with the tag boundary. And inside of them, we'll add the code that would switch the boolean with its opposite, like true would go to false and false to true. And that is all the coding we will have to do. Back in Unity, we will first go to the hierarchy and add 3 sprites, 1 for the ball and 2 for the panels. We will scale these sprites to their appropriate heights. Next, we will select both panels and go to the inspect window and add the player movement script, select the respective player, and add a box collider 2D script where we will check the box for is trigger. We will also go to the tag and create a new tag called panel and then set the tags to panel. For the ball, we will add the ball movement, a circle collider 2D, and a rigid body 2D, which we will set the gravity scale to 0. Lastly, we'll add 2 empty objects, give them box collider 2D, and using the edit collider, we will adjust them to be the boundaries, and then we will add the boundary tag to them, and that's it. Next is the best part about making video games. You can use your creative powers to customize the Pong game. You can do this by using PNG photos, selecting them in the project, changing the sprite settings, and then dragging them into the sprite renderer script as so. You can also fix the colliders to fit the sprite. If you want to export the game, you can go to Build Settings, click Build, and then select the photo on where you want to export your game files to. There, you can click on the exe file to open up the game. But since this is a simple game, you might have to use the start bar to exit the game. And that is it for the tutorial. But some of you might be wondering, why Pong? Why do a tutorial on Pong? For one, it is the first video game made, and second, it is a good first game for someone to make. According to an article from dev.to, a game that is good for beginners in game development is Pong because of its simplicity, and even though it is simple, it can still teach you a lot about the basics of a video game. That's all for me. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!
We rise up from the